Hey, what's up, good people? It's Jay Ray, the co-host of Q Points, and I wanted to come to you because there are two really important ways that you can support our show. One is by subscribing to it wherever you listen to or watch your podcasts. Q Points is pretty much everywhere. The other thing that you can do is you can visit us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and on Podchaser, and you can leave us a star rating. Please rate us 5 stars because you know you love Q Points. And on Apple Podcasts and on Podchaser, you can actually leave us a written review. It's not required, but it really does help to spread the word about the show, and it helps people to discover it as they're looking for new podcasts to listen to. We're always appreciative of you supporting Q Points. We thank you so much for all that you've done for us so far, and enjoy the show.
Greetings and welcome back to another episode of Q Points Podcast. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
And my name is Jay Ray, sometimes known by my government as Johnny Ray Cornegay III. Good evening, folks.
Guess what, Jay Ray? They not like us because we are the number one podcast according to the latest numbers that have come out. You know, we're doing the thing and we have nobody else to thank but you, listener. Matter of fact, Jay Ray, tell them how they could be a part of the Q Points party and just being a wonderful success.
Yo, absolutely. So thank you all so much for, yes, that is absolutely right. We are number one on the feed spot, 25 best black music podcasts you should be listening to in 2024. And like DJ Sir Daniel said, it's because of all of you. So because of you being here, hearing our voices, whether you're hearing us or you're watching us, whatever you are doing, you should subscribe. So if it's your first time here, welcome. We so happy you here. If you've been here before, thank you. We so happy you here too. Make sure that you subscribe, hit the notification bell if there is one, so you can stay up with us. Visit our website, qpoints.com. You can join our newsletter. You can read our magazine. That is where we have a whole bunch of information that is additional to the Q Points show. Most recently, we have an article over there featuring Tony Kennedy of What's Poppin' Penny. And earlier this month, What's Poppin' Penny was a sponsor of the show, and we talked to Tony about her show, What's Poppin' Penny. They have a Juneteenth episode that you need to check out. So there's something special, Sir Daniel. I want to tell you about that episode because I don't know if you know this, but make sure you go subscribe. Do that thing. And also, if you want to support Q Points, visit our store, store.qpoints.com. You can buy merch, you can buy mugs, you can buy all the things, right? Here's what I want to tell you, Sir Daniel. So, my cousin, her first acting gig is in What's Poppin' Penny. My cousin Brooklyn plays Nori in Tony's show.
Shout out to Brooklyn. That's a wonderful... No, so that's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. That show is a gem.
Yeah.
I watched the interview of you and Miss Tony, and her enthusiasm and her love is just, it radiates when she speaks. Mm-hmm. And the authenticity in which she does her work is felt. And I really do believe that show, What's Poppin' Penny, is going to be life-changing for a new generation. A generation that these kids need it.
Yes.
Hopefully the generation after Z will really have it together, or at least they'll be emotionally sound.
Yeah.
And we'll owe it to people like Miss Tony and What's Poppin' Penny. So I'm super proud of you for rocking that interview, and I'm super proud of like what she's doing. I love that movement.
Yeah, man. Also shout out to Fit 360. I'm rocking my Fit 360 shirt. Fit 360 is in Miami Circle in the Buckhead neighborhood of Atlanta. If you are looking for a gym, you should hop over there. If you want to meet the owner, he was on Q Points. So we did our
Yes.
first live at Fit 360, and you could go back and listen to that show
It's
because
coming up on the year.
it's coming up. Isn't that crazy how it's coming up on a year? But yeah, Fitzroy Smith, the owner of Fit 360. So go over there. Shout out to Fitz and Fonda and all the people over there at Fit 360.
I know that's right. Well, speaking of slow jams can heal us, and you
Mm-hmm.
need to go cop you a shirt. J Ray, we're going to talk about a new a new experience that just popped up thanks to the people over at NPR.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we saw it coming because some of the NPR tiny desks have been announced ahead of time,
Yeah.
but we got the surprise of a lifetime when we saw that Meshell Ndegeocello was being featured on NPR Tiny Desk performance. And I love it, Meshell Ndegeocello,
Mm-hmm.
but this guy right here, J Ray, is a Meshell Ndegeocello stan.
Damn.
And we had to, I mean, it was the perfect idea. It was like, oh, Michelle is in the news. Let's talk about her. Let's talk about her contributions
Yeah.
to this industry, to modern music, and the I guess and the legacy that she's carrying on of musicianship and women-led bands. She's a bass guitarist. I mean, you name it, she's done it.
Yeah.
Tonight's subject, of course, well, this episode's subject, of course, is Meshell Ndegeocello.
Mm-hmm.
And J Ray, when I text you, matter of fact, I think I shot you the screenshot, or it was a link
Mm-hmm.
to just a quick post of her there. What was your initial reaction when you were like, Meshell has a tiny desk performance?
Um,
Well, I'm sure it
I
sounded like that. You took a deep breath
yeah.
and gasped.
So my immediate thought was, when am I going to have time to listen to the Michelle Tiny Desk? Right? I needed to because I needed to be able to sit with it. And baby, you know
Mhm.
how my life is, right? Where there's a lot going on. And when there's a
Yes.
Michelle something, you need to have time to sit with it. So that was my first thing, was like, oh my God, Michelle has a tiny desk. When am I going to have time to like sit with it? And you know what? And I will also say, I was excited for me because I love Michelle, but I was like, nervous too because I'm like, I need people to understand how important she is. And
Mm.
I don't know if you can get that in 25 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was also like, I mean, yes,
You felt
but
protective. You felt
I
protective
felt
of her, and
very
you're like,
protective of her.
this. She's a gem, and if you don't know about her, you need to know about her, and you gonna get what you need in this performance, and you need to clap when they say clap. That's exactly how you were. That's
L-
exactly how he was behind the scenes.
Literally, you are explaining exactly how I was behind the scenes. But I was so Michelle, to that point, Sir Daniel, she is the person that I have seen live the most. It was a toss up between Michelle and the Roots. I've seen, I don't know how many times it's been now. It's more than five, less than 10. So it's somewhere in between 5 and 10. But of course, I saw her live last year at the Ardmore Music Hall in Philly, or in Ardmore, actually. And what was dope about that show is we got introduced to her band. Like, she has an all new band. She, for the last 4 years or so since ventriloquism, has been referring to Meshell Ndegeocello as a band,
Uh,
which, yeah,
kind
which
of
is
like Sade.
kind of like Sade, exactly.
Mm.
And the way I've heard her kind of talk about it is because she is at this point in her musical journey and in her life where she is grateful for, she just loves being able to play with musicians, and she feels like these folks are taking her to new places. She even said that in the Tiny Desk. She's like, oh my God, where I'm able to go now is in a new place, right? And I will tell you, when I saw her last year, it literally felt like we went up in a spaceship
Hmm.
to the blackest, spaciest place we could go. And then at the end, it was like, okay, we have to land now back here on Earth. But for that period of time, she took us up into the spaceship. And this Tiny Desk felt like that too.
You know, I think what you described is an experience that fans of a handful of artists
Mm-hmm.
experience.
Yeah.
That otherworldliness that they feel, um, being transported to another planet. Not since like even back when Parliament, George Clinton in Parliament, literally had a spaceship come down and portrayed that experience.
Yeah.
I think it's only a handful of people that can do that with their artistry these days. And Meshell is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
And I think what lends to that is kind of her
Yeah.
niche reach. She's not she's not super mainstream.
Mm-mm.
You know about her, but she's literally like, if you know about her, the cool kids know about Meshell Ndegeocello. You know what I'm saying? So being a part of that audience and being that in that audience, I have no doubt was otherworldly. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen her live, and I want to say I don't think she was a featured artist. I think it might have been one of those like at a funk jazz cafe event here in Atlanta where she just kind of popped up
Mm-hmm.
and she got on stage for a hot second, but you're not getting the whole show.
Right.
But I was very taken aback when I listened to her do a rendition of Dreadlocks. No, no,
Mm.
no.
Or
Outside Your
outside your
Door.
door. Mm-hmm.
Outside Your Door, I was immediately transported. Remember that episode where we talked about about songs that we included on a sex
Uh-huh.
tape? Yeah, Outside Your Door is definitely one of those.
Of
And
course.
it was like a no-brainer, but she sounds exactly the same. She sounds exactly the same in that pocket. She's it almost feels like she's whispering directly in your
Here I
ear.
am waiting.
You know what I'm saying? That's exactly it. And I don't know, that takes a level of intimacy, and I think that might be the key to her voodoo over us is that level of intimacy that she has that we all seem to experience when we allow her into our heads.
No, I think you have tapped in. She's also the type of artist when you see her live, she is taking in the music. One,
Hmm.
she works with stellar musicians. We're going to talk about that in a second. She's taking in the music and there's almost like a channeling. What I love about this current moment, even when you look at the Tiny Desk, Michelle's bass was in front of her, but she didn't touch the bass one time. She had a bass player there with her. And she's able to embody this music, take it in, give it that Michelle thing whenever she needed to give it.
Hmm.
But she let Justin and Kanita lead really the vocals. So just so that folks know, Justin Hicks and Kanita Miller Hicks, they're a husband and wife duo. They have a trio called the Hot Plates. That's HAWT.
Come on, hot
Hot
plates.
Plates. And they have been working with Michelle now for the last several years. And Michelle, even when she was here in Philly, even there on the Tiny Desk, she talks about very deliberately that she's thankful for them being next to her doing this work. But going back to what you were saying around her intimacy, I feel like because she is such kind of the music is all up in her.
Hmm.
That's what we're feeling like it's churning through her and she's able to deliver it. And so I'm happy the tiny desk happened. It's a beautiful experience. So what folks are getting, by the way, is you got three songs from the upcoming No More Water, which is the Gospel of James Baldwin. That's the album that's coming out on Baldwin's birthday, August 2nd. And so we got three songs from that project, and then we got a song from her last album, The Omnichord Real Book, and then of course we got Outside Your Door from her first album. And so I think it's time to talk about, let's get into a little bit of the history, Sir Daniel. I think this is perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and shout out to folks in the chat. We see folks in the chat. I see Wani. I don't know much about sports. Thank you so much for being here. We are so excited to have this discussion. Of course, Mark McPherson, who saw Meshell in Cincinnati. Yeah, she's a
In
whole
November.
thing in
Yeah.
November. Yeah. So history, real quick, Sir Daniel. So, because I'm curious to know how you came to experience her at first. But before we got to see her, right in
Hmm.
1993, Meshell was raised in D.C. That's where all of that. That's where all that funk come from. I know that's where it come from. You know what I mean?
She got that stank on her from
She got
DC.
that stank on her from one playing in go-go bands in DC.
Hmm.
That bass is deep within up within her. And so during the 80s, she cut her teeth kind of playing locally in DC. And is a multi-instrumentalist, but of course we came to know her primarily as a bass player. And that was interesting and rare because the only other women that I remember playing bass, Climax, of course you had a woman on bass there, and then a
Joyce
Taste of
Fenderella
Honey,
Irby.
Joyce Finderella Irby, and then
Hmm.
Taste of Honey, and
Sisters.
then
Yeah.
yeah, and then Meshell.
What about Patrice Rushen? Didn't she
Patrice
play back?
Rushen would
Yeah.
hop on the bass as well. So there were few and far between in terms of women who would, rock out on the bass that I remembered as a kid. But you mentioned earlier dreadlocks. So 1992, Meshell became one of the first artists signed to Madonna's newly created Maverick record label. And this was a big deal. So Meshell, she signed this artist, Meshell Ndegeocello, who released an album called Plantation Lullabies. And we got to experience her, bald head and all, on this track called Dreadlock. And this is in 1993. This was
Yeah.
not, nobody was doing that in 93. No one looked like her. Nobody was doing this kind of music then. And I remember being transfixed by the idea of it. The music was beautiful, and then the imagery was beautiful. I'm curious, Sir Daniel, how did you come to experience Meshell for the first time?
So I was, and this is the importance of record stores. I was introduced to Meshell Ndegeocello by a gentleman, a young man, and God, I wish I could remember their names. I think the owner of the store, his name was Rob, and it was a white guy, and there was a younger black gentleman that worked there, and I want to say it was called Beach Street or City Beach, something like that. It was in downtown Atlanta. So I would constantly go there in between classes because I was attending Georgia State University, and he, I'm a regular, so of course he's like going to put me on the stuff that's new all the time, right? Or if he had promos, he would always give me promos, and so he was just like, "Hey, you need to check this out. I think I don't know if he was like, I'm not certain if she's hip hop or not, but I think she is because she kind of looks like a rapper. And
Mm-hmm.
that was because the promo shot of her, she was wearing Lokes,
Yep.
and it was a very 90s aesthetic, the plaid, the oversized plaid shirt, hip hop
Mm-hmm.
and grunge kind of intertwined as far as her aesthetic was concerned. And so I was thinking, oh, okay, so this might be a new form of hip hop. And then he was like, yeah, she's on Madonna's label. And that raised my eyebrow. I was like, oh, yeah, I heard about Madonna starting a label. And then I was like, so Madonna's putting out black artists. Okay. So it didn't take much convincing. At that age, it didn't take much convincing for me to try a new artist at that age.
Mm-hmm.
So I copped the single. Yes, single, ladies and gentlemen. And it was Dreadlock and Outside Your Door. And Outside Your Door was the song that really, really captivated me because of the piano loop
Mm-hmm.
that we will discuss later on, the
Yes.
infamous piano loop. And I was just taken in by that voice that we talked about earlier, the intimacy that she created between your ears and the air and your headphones.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what is this? And this was like at the burgeoning, the beginning of the resurgence of the poetry scene.
Yeah.
So, she was speaking in that poetic cadence that, all the poets on the scene were speaking in. And I felt like I was at the Patty Hut or at the Apache, and at the end of every chorus, I would snap my fingers, and it was really dope. And for somebody like me at that age who was very, hip hop driven, J Ray, it took a lot for me to slow down,
Yeah.
to find something to slow down and to make me think. At that age, I was just go, go, go,
Yeah.
and that's what hip hop provided me.
Yeah.
But Meshell came along and she made my heartbeat slow down, and she literally came and put her hand on my heart
Mm.
and spoke into my ears and was like, listen to this, listen to what I'm saying. This is what somebody can make you feel, or this is how you can make somebody feel.
Mm.
And it was that sharing of the energy and the intimacy that really appealed to me. And I was like, okay, I'm digging this, I'm into this. But then they were still trying to, I guess, in a way to try and sell her, was still trying to interject her into like hip hop conversations.
Yeah.
I remember several articles about her in the Source and Vibe about her rap influence, because anybody that was doing spoken word back then was automatically lumped into hip hop.
Yep.
And at that point, we also had Diggable Planets who were doing their
Mm-hmm.
thing. A Tribe Called Quest had already pioneered that hip hop poetic
Mm-hmm.
jazzy style. Everybody was at that point was sampling jazz loops,
Yep.
and so here comes Meshell, and she's playing everything like
Mm-hmm.
you said, and so I think that lent her to like the Lilith tours, and so
Mm-hmm.
she started popping up on these mainstream platforms like MTV because of her involvement in the Lilith tour. So then it was like, oh yeah, we really got to watch Meshell at that point. And then it was just like a train that just took off.
Nope. So one things that you mentioned that's so interesting, and I want to highlight this here because I think it's important, is that intentionality too behind the Plantation Lullabies, because one of the artists that you mentioned is a Tribe Called Quest.
Mm-hmm.
Meshell was absolutely heavily influenced by Tribe, and the mixer on Plantation Lullabies was none other than Bob Power, who did all the Tribe Called Quest stuff, who's name checked Bob Power. You there? Yeah. And, address my bass and tempo, make my shit sound clear, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Bob Power was also working on the Meshell album, right?
Mm.
So that that sound that we get from that album is because that sauce that was in that Tribe stuff is also in Plantation Lullabies. And so I do remember that too, where they were definitely interjecting her into the hip hop conversation and she fit easily. But there was also this other thing that I couldn't put my finger on about her. If That's Your Boyfriend kind of, I think, explain, well, one, when you listen to the album in its entirety, it explains it. But even if you watch the visuals for If That's Your Boyfriend, it kind of explained it too, where it was just this intense musicality of, yes, she's rapping, but it's more poetry than rap.
This is They Reminisce Over You. I'm Miguel.
And I'm Christina.
They Reminisce Over You is a podcast that celebrates and honors the best in music, movies, and TV from the past.
We get into the careers and legacies of some of the biggest names in hip-hop, R&B, and pop culture. From discussing the groundbreaking music of Missy Elliott and Mary J. Blige,
to exploring iconic moments in TV and film like the chaos at the 95 Source Awards. They Reminisce Over You has something for everyone.
So join us as we reminisce over the artists, movies, and TV shows that have shaped our lives and continue to influence popular culture today.
And it's funny you bring up If That's Your Boyfriend. So I think here is where the media starts playing up on people's sexuality, and the recording industry is like, well, maybe I don't know if Madonna had anything to do with it, or the fact that she was signed to a person like Madonna who does not shy away from controversy, and was like, okay, clearly this woman presents a certain way. She's not wearing, a pointed bra. She doesn't have the long hair. She's doing the exact opposite of what a lot of women were doing at that time. And so a song, and that video in particular, If That's Your Boyfriend, it definitely started, it was like a little, she was sending out clues, if you ask me.
Yeah.
It was definitely dropping breadcrumbs to like, y'all, I don't know if y'all are picking up what I'm putting down here, if y'all get it, but I think she was sending out a bat signal to the queer kids and to everybody who can appreciate all subcultures, and that she is not mainstream, and that this song is, she's really playing on the fact, and I think she said in her interviews, I did this song on purpose because a lot of people looked at me and assumed that I could not take somebody's man. I think there was something, a conversation she was having, and they were like, no. And she was like, oh, really? You think? And so she's like, yeah, I present this way, but I still got the juice to pull your man, even though I really don't want him.
Right.
That's just, it's a play. He's a plaything. And so she started playing with that a lot, and the imagery, and it was like, okay, this woman's different, and I think she's not afraid, or she's not shying away from controversy. And little did we know, an album later, she was going to speak the quiet truth out loud more than ever at that point.
Absolutely. And Mark is saying that exact same thing. That is absolutely true. I feel like, so for me, Peace Beyond Passion, which is Meshell's second album, picture right there, for those who are watching, helped me to navigate my coming out personally. I remember I was working in the studio at the time. So this is 1996. I was working in the studio, and one of the most beautiful things I would love to do, baby, is to test the album. I would put that CD on in the studio speakers in the control room, and I would let that thing play. So I needed to hear all the things, And like with, it was different than the first record in that she did the Prince thing of spirituality, social commentary, sexuality, all in one thing, right? So you were going to get all of it, and you felt it, and it was in the music. And so I want to mention with this album too, who's on this, right? So of course there's Meshell, there's David Gamson, who also produced her first album. Wendy Melvoin of Wendy and Lisa is on this album. Billy Preston is playing on this album.
Crazy.
He's playing organ on this record. So you get that kind of church happening on this album. Alan Cato, who goes on to work with her for another couple of years, is on this record. I think he first showed up here. And this album is the album where it's like, I'm going to say the thing, like you said, I'm going to say the thing out loud. And not only am I going to say it, our first single and music video, y'all, it blows my mind every time, Sir Daniel, where, yes, Leviticus, because we can't say the F word, is the first single from Peace Beyond Passion. And they did a video that is beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time about a young queer man who takes his own life. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And the story is so powerful, and the video is powerful, and the song is powerful. And it's like, girl, wow, that's what we're doing. And that's what she did.
Yeah, that time, let's see, we're like you said, we're in 96.
Yep.
So there's an uptick in visibility. You know, we had what's his name? Matthew Shepard. Mm-hmm. We had that incident. You also had Ellen coming out on television.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a zeitgeist.
Yep.
Of all these different monumental moments in media for these media personalities to talk about sexuality frequently, openly and frequently. And, you know, here comes Meshell, who's probably at that time was like one of the lone Black voices.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole hell of a lot of Black people speaking up. Mm-hmm. And I imagine, I don't know if that did anything to her career, because Meshell's relationship with the Black community is a special one. I don't think it's ever flailed or had any issues. I don't think she's ever received any kind of backlash. And that I don't know if that's what that's a testament to. It's probably just a testament to the work. Mm-hmm. And people just dig dope artistry regardless of who it's coming from. Yeah. And so to this day, once we get into that space where she's grown as an artist, and then we stop seeing her as much, mm-hmm. which I think for whatever reason, I think a lot of artists go through that phase where they get this popularity, mm-hmm. and they're like scorching hot. And then there's some things about the industry. It's like a story. Everybody has the same story. They find out things about the industry that they absolutely despise, and then they just retreat for a while.
Yeah, I know that I can't speak for sure, but I'm sure there were personal things. There are some stories I remember reading at the time. So there's relationship stuff, there's personal stuff, there's all of this stuff, right, that gets into the mucky muck. And also, I don't know that you can be an artist like Meshell Ndegeocello and be really in the limelight like that. I don't think it could work like that, because she is such a consummate creator. Every single project. Now, I think it was her 12th album that came out last year. But if you really break it down, she has like there's probably like 14 Meshell projects.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's like official Meshell albums and then there's like other stuff. I don't know that you can be her and create and be in the limelight and be yourself, because what we end up seeing is the next album is Bitter, right there, right up there, which includes, so Fool of Me was on the Love and Basketball soundtrack. That song became just a Quiet Storm classic as well. But that album is about pain and love. But like the icky side, like the side of love that people don't like talking about.
Right.
This
Of course.
album covers. Produced by Craig Street, who at that point was producing every jazz. If you wanted to be an interesting artist or whatever, Craig Street was probably producing your joint, because he had a like country thing, but it was kind of hip hoppy a little bit. It was a very interesting sound. And so I don't know that you can be that. And then after that, we get Cookie, which was her black album. She needed to make a black album. And which is a great record. Oh my God, it's such a great record. You know who's on the remix, on the Pocketbook remix? Redman is on there. So she tried to get a whole bunch of other people for that record. There's this lore and story of Cookie, but people wouldn't do the album. And her last official major label album was Comfort Woman, I think. I think Dance of the Infidel may have came out on some major label, but it might have been like a small thing. But Comfort Woman is actually, I think, my second favorite Meshell record. But it was her final Maverick album. And that was all like reggae inspired stuff. But that was about love in the most beautiful sense of love. So you have Bitter on one side, which is like, this is going bad, and Comfort Woman on the other side, which is like, this is no, I want to be your, like, I want to be your comfort woman, right? So point is, I just don't know that you could be Meshell and be in the limelight. I think she needed that time to be who she is.
Yeah. I think that's part of the drawback of genius is like you're so super sensitive to everything that you have to retreat to save yourself at times. But I want to go back. So you mentioned Redman on the remix. Like Meshell's relationship, even though she wasn't like a straight up rapper, she definitely had a relationship with hip hop. And definitely we saw that in the Freedom, which was the theme song to Panther, the Panther soundtrack. Freedom was originally written by Joy and produced by Dallas Austin. And I think about that song and that video was such an anomaly because it's never been done since then, where they gathered like literally every major female recording artist at the time. And I think even some underground artists were in the video at least and a part of that recording. But so remember, there were two versions of the song. There was the vocalist version, this R&B version, the singing version, and then there was a hip hop version with like MC Lyte, Yo-Yo Latifah, Left Eye. Trying to think who else. Left Eye, Patra.
Yes,
was
Patra.
on the hook. Patra was on the hook. And then, of course, Meshell Ndegeocello. She was on this singer version, but she got on there and she spit a rhyme, but in her poetry style. So she's always had this relationship with hip hop. And then fast forward, do you recall she showed up on Queen Pen's debut album?
Yes.
with an updated version of Boyfriend. Well, it was just called Boyfriend, but it was like a second a part 2 of If That's Your Boyfriend.
Yep.
And Queen Pen at that point was not holding back any punches. She openly discussed bisexuality and talked very openly in her rhymes about relationships or trysts with other women, and Meshell lended her vocals to that. So she's always had one foot in the hip hop game for sure, and she was able to hang with everybody. And that's how she was definitely a one of one kind of artist. She is a one of one kind of artist.
Yes.
And before we wrap up this segment though, so we're talking about hip hop. So J Ray, we can't not discuss the controversy.
Oh, one thing before we get to the controversy, can I just say
Okay.
one thing?
Sure.
Just so that folks know, I feel like this is really important. Meshell has some of the best slow jams in all of black music. Every single album has more than one, like just classic slow jam. And I want to raise up 2 before we go to the controversy. One is from Cookie, the Anthropological Mixtape. If you've never heard Earth, y'all need to go play it. It features Layla Hathaway. Layla is on that. Dumb vocals on the bottom of that vocal is crazy. And Lovely from The World Has Made Me the Man of My Dreams album. Lovely is, my God, one of the most sexy songs you will ever hear. So I just needed to say that also, not only is Meshell this amazing artist, she also is committed to making a hot slow jam.
Yes, and there is a difference between a ballad and a slow jam.
Yes.
We didn't talk to that in one of our older in our Slow Jams Can Heal Us episodes, so make sure you check that out as well. But one of my favorite slow jams from her, of course, like I said earlier, is Outside Your Door. And it features that a very distinct piano riff that continues throughout the song. And that song came out, like J Ray said, in 1993.
Yes.
Now, fast forward to about, what was that, about 96?
97.
97.
Yeah.
A certain Mr. Brian McKnight drops a song, and it's an immediate hit on black radio.
Yeah.
It also falls into the Quiet Storm mix, and his song is called
Anytime.
And I had to go through the lyrics on Anytime, and there's a distinct similarity between that piano riff. He has a very similar piano riff in that song, and there's this is before social media, so we music listeners picked up on it, and we discussed it amongst ourselves. But it wasn't until recently that articles started popping up about a kind of, I guess, maybe an infringement war between the two camps about, did you bite this? Did you sample it? What did you do, Mr. McKnight? What did you do? And there's never been any clear answer or description. But I don't know. Is karma coming back from Mr. McKnight now? Do you think that has anything to do? That might be a that might be a stretch. Okay, it might be a stretch, but I think it's very, very interesting.
I think it's also interesting. No, nothing ever came of those discussions. Those discussions definitely were happening in the late 90s because people were asking the question. In fact, in preparation for this conversation, there was something, I think MTV from years ago, and if we find it, we'll put it in the description for this episode, but where Brian's team is like, we wrote that song years before Meshell even got signed or whatever. And Michelle's team is like, our music speaks for itself. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. So it was just kind of like, that's where it is. But
We're
Sir
just gonna
Daniel,
keep it cute with each other.
we're going to keep it cute. But Sir Daniel is not lying. That song, that piano riff in that song, if you play the two songs back to back,
Which I've done it, and it's a quick and simple blend. It's really the same.
it's very
You might
easy
have
to do.
It's not a far fetch to match the BPMs. It fits right in. It really does, folks.
Oh,
Well, we guess we'll never know. We can only have conjecture and, have these conversations. But, you can have those conversations with us on Q Points Podcast, because that's what we do. We speak in facts, but, we don't mind a little gossip here and there. And I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Trying to fit in a conversation, because we want to be cognizant of your time, because you're taking time to be with us and just to chit chat with us and listen to us talk. And we want to be mindful of how much time you have. But with a stand like J. Ray, a Meshell Ndegeocello stand like J. Ray, you got to really keep the reins tight, because he could have gone on.
there's
and on and
so much. We didn't even talk about the Ventriloquism album, where she covered all of them amazing songs. Her version of Night and Day. I'm gonna stop talking, but Michelle's version of Night and Day is amazing, and y'all need to hear it.
Listen, we're at the end of this episode. We are having way too much fun. J. Ray, please tell the people again how they can continue to have this much fun with us and to rock our apparel and all the good stuff that comes along with Q Points Podcast.
Yes, y'all. So thank you so much for hanging out with us, being here, listening, watching, wherever you are. Subscribe. It is free. Do us a solid and share the show with your friends and family. If you enjoy the show, chances are that they will enjoy the show too, because they love you and you love Q Points. So make it all happen. You know what I mean? Visit our website, qpoints.com. You can subscribe to our newsletter. You can read our magazine. You can watch all the old shows, which is super awesome. And you can even become a Q Points insider if you choose to do so. In addition, you can visit our store at store.qpoints.com, and you can buy some merch and all types of stuff. We got shirts, we got bags, we got mugs, all the things, y'all.
Well, what do I always say? In this life, you have a choice. You can either pick up the needle or you can let the record play. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
And my name is J. Ray, y'all.
This is Q Points Podcast, dropping the needle on Black music history. We'll see you on the next go round. Peace.
Peace and shut up.